In this Billboard breakdown, we're gonna remake One of the Girls by The Weeknd, Jennie, and Lily Depp, and it's gonna sound like this. Alright guys, my name is Bad Habit, and today we're gonna remake One of the Girls, a song from the soundtrack of The Idol, the TV show starring The Weeknd. The song was produced by Mike Dean, The Weeknd, and Sage Skolfield, and it's been killing it on Spotify with over 700 million streams, on the radio as well. And I feel like we haven't really covered this genre before, so I'm really excited to break this down with you. And as always, I'm gonna do it step by step, showing you every step of my process live, so this way you can do it too. So what kind of production is this? The song is very Mike Dean sounding, and if you don't know who Mike Dean is, by the way, you better Google it, because he's responsible for some of the biggest hits of the past 30 years, especially in hip-hop and pop. And when I say Mike Dean sounding, what I mean is that very analog feel, that very analog sound, vintage synths, all of that stuff. But we're gonna try to replicate all of that in the box, only using plugins, even though I've got some very cool synths behind me, but we're not gonna use these today, so you guys can follow along. If you're excited about this video, drop a like right now and let's get started. Okay, so we're gonna start from the intro, which is basically the same as the hook in terms of instrumentation. We're gonna see that a lot of the instruments in the intro, we're gonna find them again in the hook later on. And the first thing I wanna work on are drums. The drums are very basic hip-hop drums with some sounds that are familiar. Like that snare, it kind of reminds me of the snare of Rockstar by Post Malone. The ringing snare, I'm gonna find it right now. This one, it's very similar to this one. It reminds me of this because of that ringing frequencies, you know. I'm gonna also try to find a kick, something a little bit distorted, not too much low end to leave some space for the bass. I like this one. It's not like full of low end, but I like the body. It already has some sort of saturation, a little bit shorter. And then drop it into a drum rack. There was like some kind of weird resonance that I wanted to remove just to make it more dead sounding. Yeah. And before we go deeper in the processing of this kick, I just want to add the snare just to get a feeling of what the drums actually sound like. And you know what we're going to do? We're going to use this new feature from Ableton 12. Basically, it lets you search similar samples starting from one that you like already. And I have this one. Like I said, this is like the Rockstar snare. I want to find similar ones. So if I just click this button right here, now I've got a list of like similar samples. I'm gonna find one that's maybe a little bit gentler and softer. Okay, so I found these two samples. I'm gonna try to make, you know, the snare not as punchy. Probably gonna fade it in just a little bit. Let's see. I'm gonna do it with both. For this one, I cut the very first part of the sample. It was hitting too hard. Also experimenting with transposing. I think I'd like it at +1. Okay, I'm happy with the sound selection for kick and snare, but there are a couple of things that we can do to tweak them and make them sound closer to the original. There are some like additional layers, some like, I don't know if they're like shakers, tambourines. It's something that definitely helps the kick and the snare standing out a little bit more. It sounds like, I don't know, a shaker. Kind of sounds like paper. I don't know how to explain this. It's really weird, but that's what I'm hearing. Like, what if I type paper? I don't know why, but what about this one? Kind of sounds like a shaker. And I'm also gonna add my trigger for the sidechain, which I'm gonna for sure add later. So let's just do it now. Again, I don't want too much attack on this sound. Okay, transposing up. Does it sound better? Yeah. Oh, +3, even better because now it sounds like it's actually part of the kick sample, which is what I wanted. Great. And I want to do the same thing, like adding, I don't know, some sort of like tambourine samples on top of the snare. So I think I'm going to use this one, which I put really, really quiet in the mix. And this one as like the main shaker. Yeah. You know what? This time I might want to bounce this to audio so I'm able to shape even better the fade in of this snare. In their song, they found a way to have the snare like in your face, but gentle. It's not like it has a crazy transient. And I want to try to do this. So freeze the track, something like this, like a little bit of a fade in, maybe even a little more. There you go. There you go. Yes. Usually I like my drums to smack hard, but in this case, that's what I'm hearing in the original song. And before moving on to the hats, I want to try this one plugin developed by Mike Dean on the kick, which is Gain Station. This is a crazy plugin. Like, you gotta be really careful, both with the CPU and like the loudness. Like, this is gonna blow your speakers. There are some cool presets by Mike Dean. I'm gonna play a little bit with these. Yeah. Woo. I added some air because I really wanted to hear that layer that we added, this like paper thing. Some bass boost, you know, nothing special really, but like, I love the sound of this plugin. So without it, where's my kick? Insane. Okay, so we're ready to move on to the hats. And there's nothing special about the hats except one thing. The sound is super simple. It's like a very basic hip-hop sounding hat. But they found a way to make it special, make it move a little bit. So the pattern is 8 notes, but the downbeats are different than the upbeats. That's what makes it a little bit interesting. First of all, I need to find a good sample. I think we need something really tiny. This one could work. Okay, so these are cool. It's not exactly the same sound, but we can use these as a placeholder for now. I want to just show you what I mean. I remember that feature I told you about on Ableton 12. You can search for a similar sample. But let's say that your sample is already in the drum rack, like in my case right now. What you can do is just click these arrows and it's gonna find similar samples and replace it directly in the drum rack. This is super interesting. You know, I'm just gonna keep going like that until I kind of find the sound that reminds me. Oh, what about this one? Oh, hang on. Ooh, I think this might be it. This might be the actual one. I want to show you how to get that effect. So what I would do is just take the sample that we like and copy it exactly the same into a different slot. But before I do this, I want to shape the sound a little bit. So when I copy it with the right settings. A little bit, you know, shorter, tighter. And I also want to get rid of a little bit of that attack. Same thing we did on the snare. There you go. This is the sweet spot where it starts to be like a little. Okay, so we're ready now to copy it into the second slot. So now we have 2 samples that sound exactly the same, but what if we take the second one and we tune it lower? I don't know, let's start from like -4. And of course, like now we gotta fix this in the MIDI. So we're gonna do something like this. So this way, every hat that we have on the downbeat is gonna be tuned lower, and every hat that we have on the upbeat is gonna be tuned higher. Okay, kind of sounds like a clock. And now, I don't know, let's keep trying. I think it's more than 4, probably. This is a very cool way of keeping the hats moving and a little bit more interesting. This is like still a loop, but you kind of spice it up a little bit. Group these 2 together because on the group, I want to put an EQ. There are some frequencies that are kind of bothering me on both of these. Narrow it down like this, boosting it up like 12 dB or something. And you're gonna start to hear some like weird whistles. This was one of the frequencies that I was hearing, so now I can turn it down. So this is basically it for the drums. There's only one more layer coming in later on in the song, but yeah, this is the bulk of the drums. We're gonna add some processing to the drums at the end, but now I wanna move on to that very interesting siren sound that we have in the intro. I have a few ideas on how to replicate this. It's definitely one of those vintage synths. It might be a Moog, it might be a Prophet. I don't know, for some reason my head says Prophet, but I might be wrong. So I might wanna start from Repro, which is actually an emulation of the Prophet. This is not really a siren sound, but this is the word, like the sonic word that we gotta try to go for. You know what's very cool? The SH101, like for lead sounds. If I think about like Mike Dean producing this song, I can see him using the Prophet, this one, the Juno for sure, the Moog. So it's definitely one of these synths, you know? Yeah, love this. When I listen to the original, it sounds to me like they did a blend of, playing some notes legato like this and some others where they actually use the pitch bend. But the very first thing I want to do is adding a huge reverb on this sound. This is what makes it sound like an actual siren, So the mix pretty high. Something like that. So I'm going to record the pitch bend in. Perfect. Exactly. But you know what? Before I finish this, I kind of want to find another sound that supports this. This is cool, but like it would be on the higher octave. Oh, this is nice though. This sounds more like a siren than the one I chose before. This is so much better. What? It's definitely too bright, but whoa, this sound is amazing. Okay, so now the sound is starting to bother me a little bit, so let's turn it down. Let's make it darker. Oh yeah. There's only one little bit about this pitch bend that, I don't know, I'm not sold about that, which is when it goes down to this B flat, I'm not sure they actually play the note. What if they actually go down using the pitch bend? I need to boost the bend range to 7, and now all of the bends that I just played are not gonna work anymore. I'm gonna have to adjust the bends, and we're gonna have to do a little bit of math here, so bear with me. This value, 8,192, corresponds to 7 semitones. Okay, so let me do this real quick. 8,192 divided by 7 times 2. Okay, so every time we want a 2 semitones bend, we're gonna set the value to 2,340, somewhere around 2,340. Okay, this is pretty close. Perfect. So we're gonna cut this point. See, it works. Now we gotta do the same thing, but going down, because now it goes like. And this instead would be going down by 3. 1, 2, 3. So we can do the same thing. 8,192 divided by 7 times 3 this time. So 3,510. Perfect. A little bit more gradual. Perfect. Same thing. I bet you never thought about doing this. Perfect. Saturation, but super low in the mix. Yeah. Woo! And I think one final thing I can do to make this sound even more like a siren is just enhancing some of those frequencies, something in this area. Just added a touch of OTT, like 10%, and a delay. Okay, it's finally time to work on the bass, and then we're gonna have the bulk of the production, because basically these are the elements that you're gonna see throughout the whole song, with some additions here and there, some keys that we're gonna see in a second. So for the bass, the first thing I thought of is the Moog, for multiple reasons. First, it sounds like a Moog. Second, because Mike Dean loves the Moog. We can start from something like one of the emulations that I have for the Moog. Okay, I don't like the attack of this one, but the sound is pretty cool. Okay, so. I think the sound is pretty cool. Like, it's not exactly there, but it's pretty cool. This is a good placeholder, but I think we can also find some different presets. The MS-20 is known for having some crazy good bass sounds, but these don't sound at all like what I'm looking for. This is a cool 808 though. This is nice. It's not as, it doesn't have that bite that we need, that we have with this one. If I find a way to make it sound a little bit brighter. Yeah. Oh my God, I love this. Hey! I don't even think I want to keep that Moog now, because this bass is so close to the original one, and it sounds insane. So let's talk about the keys for a second. In the intro, we have some keys. We have some different keys coming in the verse, in the pre-chorus, and in the chorus. And then in the hook, the same keys that we find in the intro, they're gonna come back. Here, the main keys I'm hearing are some sort of like organs and possibly something like human voices. The farfisa, it's probably one where we're gonna find what we're looking for. The chords are really super simple. It's just F minor, G minor, and C minor. This is cool. Oh, this is even better because this is definitely an organ, but it kind of also sounds like a pad. See, this kind of helps setting the vibes. Super dark. Definitely the vibes that The Weeknd digs. But I can hear another layer a little bit brighter. There you go. And it's all about finding a good balance between these two. But listen, if I mute it, you definitely notice this is making it super dark. Wow, I love these vibes. Hey! I don't know the lyrics. And remember when I said that I was also hearing some human voices? I'm pretty sure that we can find something like that in Omnisphere. This is a choir, and I had to filter it out because, you know, it was super bright, but I still want you to get that feeling of like being in a church and having some people like a choir singing. It's all making it so dark. So this is the intro, but when we go into the verse, some things simplify and some new things are coming in. So we're gonna keep the bass the same, but we're not gonna have the drums here. We're gonna have keys though. These things are staying, and I kind of feel like now we need to support these keys with some other layers. I found this one, which complements really well this other choir. And also I added this additional organ, but this comes from The Prophet. This comes from a synth. And this is kind of the sound of In the Air Tonight by Phil Collins. And one thing I want to point out real quick is that the chords in the verse are played in a way to kind of build up to something else, which is going to be the pre-chorus. So the chorus starts with these voicings, okay, and then they go into this, and then this. But then the next time, instead of going back to the F played the same way we played it the first time right here, this time they're gonna play F, G sharp, and C. So it's kind of building up. You can definitely see it from the MIDI. And then we have the drums coming back in the second half of the verse, but no hats this time. So I kind of want to hear more the choirs, but I want to look for something different this time. The emulator or those kind of, you know, synthesizers that came out in the 80s that were actually samplers. This is what I want. These kind of choirs that don't sound real like the Omnisphere ones, but this way we can create a good, you know, balance between the two things. I'm keeping it super low in the mix, -24, but, you know, it's this one, and I decided to play it in a lower octave. This is the blend I got for the verse and the pre, because this is gonna stay the same in the pre. Going into the pre, the drums are coming back, so we also have the hats, which I noticed just now are slightly panned to the left. So I copied all the keys, and in the kick we have this. Yeah. There's only one layer missing in the drums, and that's a rim. That's used as a layer for the snare, and that's only coming in here in the pre, and then it stays for the chorus and the hook. That's nice. We're only missing a reverb. You can definitely notice these are drowning in reverb. Yeah, woo! Oh, wow. Amazing. And there's also a sample, like a hey, again, in like a huge reverb. I went for delay and reverb. So I put the delay in parallel, and then the reverb, I just put it on the track as an insert, like 45%. I slightly filtered the sample, and I pitched it down because in the original song, I was hearing it was pitched down. Oh yeah. the siren, it's coming back, and now it's pitching up and down, plus and minus 12 semitones. So basically it's going from C to C to C up there. Yeah. And now we can go into the chorus. In the chorus, the chords are finally changing. And I don't know if you've noticed this, guys, but in most of these breakdowns, the chords of the chorus are different than the chorus of the verse. This is definitely becoming more frequent after like so many years of songs that were only 4 chords. And now from these chords, we go into a very classic chord progression, 4, 5, 6 that we're going to use for the chorus. So the drums stay exactly the same. We're going to copy all of these drums. We're going to copy the vocals, but now the bass is changing because the chords are changing, and it's also changing the way they play it. Now it's 8th notes, and it goes like this. And of course, we got to do the same thing with the keys. So we're going to use all of these layers. We're just going to play these new chords. Yeah. And we don't have the siren that we have in the intro and that we're gonna have in the hook. Here we have some strings, and the strings sound like Selena to me. This is like another one of those, you know, vintage, super famous hardware. And we go into the hook here with a very cool bass lick that we haven't done. Actually, let me do that right away. I'm gonna break it down. Yeah, okay. Okay, so we're almost done, so stay with me because the only thing missing now is the hook. The instruments that we have in the hook are basically the same that we had in the intro. We just gotta remember that and use these chords that we have now with those same instruments. Copy these same chords for this one, and also for this farfisa that now is coming back. This one, okay, that we haven't used for the verse, the pre, or the chorus. We're gonna support these layers also with all of these keys that we added because, you know, it's a hook. It's the biggest part of the song. We're gonna copy the bass, but the one that has no fills at the end, together with the drums and that vocal effect. But now that siren lead that we had in the intro, that's coming back. And it's supported by additional layers that sound super analog. So we're gonna look for something like that into like Prophet. Maybe we can go for Diva, these kind of plugins. Yeah. But what I'm hearing is a lead that plays the lower octave, a lead that plays the higher octave. So I'm probably look for another sound and decide if I want to keep this one as the higher one or the lower one. Okay, so this is the blend of synths that I came up with. A low octave, I actually used that sound, okay? But I went down an octave. And then I used another one which plays the higher octave. I just added some saturation and reverb. And for this one, instead, I used the Minimoog. Like a very simple lead sound that kind of reminded me of the siren. So I thought, okay, maybe it's gonna support well. I actually had another one supporting the siren lead. Okay. But the main one, I think the core of these leads comes from this brassy lead that I found inside the ARP Odyssey. Just added some overdrive to, you know, make it stand out a little bit more and have a little bit of grit. And then I kind of tamed it down, adding a big reverb. This sounds like this. This is the lower octave that I was definitely hearing in the original song. And so when you play them together, they sound like this. Yeah, that's a hook. Okay, as always, I left the drum processing for the end, but before I can do that, I need to, you know, balance a little bit the instruments. The levels are not quite there yet. I need to reorganize the session a little bit. So I'll do that, and then we can jump straight into drum processing. Okay, I reorganized the session with the colors that I like. And I also want to show you a couple of things that I added. The snare didn't have enough body. And so I just added a super simple layer like hip hop snare, this one, that's definitely covering frequencies that the other snare was not covering. You can definitely hear the difference. Look at this, right? And then I added some very, very simple side chain, super short, you know, just to make the kick stand out a little bit. But the drums are not standing out like they should now. They're kind of drowning in this mix. So I want to show you this plugin that I've had for a while, but I just started using it recently. It's called Drum Strip. It basically has everything you need for processing drums. And in this case, I want to enhance a little bit the low frequencies for sure. And I want to also add some compression. Let's start from this. Maybe not 100%. We can keep it in parallel just a little bit, but we're going to have to make up quite a bit. And I also love how the compression is making that reverb feel even bigger. Some drive on the low frequencies. Let's do like, I don't know, between 50, 60 hertz, something like that. And then you can, oh, now you can hear it, right? Tame down the highs a little bit. Those hi-hats, some more boost to the low end. You know what's different now compared to what we did before is that here we're enhancing the frequencies by driving them, you know? And here it's just like an EQ thing. And I want to show you another plugin for saturation this time that I'm not sure I've showed you before. Newfangled Saturate. Like, of course, it's sounding louder, but I'm okay with it because the drums were pretty quiet before. So let me see how they sound together. Yeah, now a little too loud. One final thing, I just want to add Soothe, which is just an incredible plugin. I'm pretty sure you've seen this before. I just want to make sure that the hi-hats are not harsh. And also, you know, some frequencies coming from the snare, possibly. Yeah. Woo. Wow. All right, guys, we got to the end of this amazing breakdown. I'm so happy about how it came out, and I hope you enjoyed it. And as you can see, this song was not made with that many elements, but when you have the right elements, you can make a song with 20 tracks. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. And as always, drop your requests for future Billboard breakdowns. You're gonna find all my breakdowns in this playlist right here, and more remakes are on my channel as well. Now, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next Billboard breakdown.